What's up guys, Romsicle here, and today we are reviewing the Gamakay K66, formerly known as the Romsicle K66, and we're going to see whether it's worth it or not. So let's get right into it. So starting off with the design, this is a 60% keyboard with a 65 form factor, because it does have 66 keys altogether, with all the basic functions such as arrow keys, a right shift key, and the delete key. It also has a low profile acrylic case that's made to work extremely well with RGB lighting because of how well the material distributes light. The PCB has LEDs underneath the switch as well as on the sides, giving you that insane amount of RGB lighting. And this case is actually made up of 3 parts. You have the bottom of the case, the middle of the frame to account for the USB-C port, and the plate. So this keyboard should technically have a more softened typing experience and isn't going to be as loud as if it were on an aluminum plate. On the bottom we have some rubber feet that will give you around a 3-degree typing angle, and we also get a regular white USB-C cable, a cleaning brush, and a couple tools for your switches. Moving to the top, the keycaps on here are your typical backlit ABS keycaps with a pretty poor paint coating that actually kind of sticks to your fingers instead of slipping off, making the occasional squeak noise when you're typing. And if you're planning on buying keycaps for this keyboard, which is pretty tempting, make sure you get a set that fits a non-standard bottom row with arrow keys, a 2U right shift key, and the proper key heights for the insert and delete key. And underneath the keycaps, I chose the Gateron Red switch version, which are linear switches and have an actuation force of 43 grams and a bottom out force of 55 grams. You can also see that the switches are south facing, making them more compatible with Cherry keycaps and Ninja keycaps, which is a feature you don't see very often. But now let's hear the stock sound test. With this keyboard, you can choose to have blue, brown, red, yellow, or black switches. But the best part about this keyboard is that it is hot swappable, meaning it's compatible with any 3 or 5 pin switches out there on the market, extending the possibilities to the enthusiast level, and you know I gotta love that. So Holy Pandas, Zelios, Telios, they're all fair game here. And another byproduct of being hot swappable is that you can lube these switches without having to deal with soldering. Speaking of lube, while I was lubing these switches, I did find a little bit of lube or oil on the legs of the stems, which suggests that Gamakay actually lightly factory lubes the metal leaves in the switch. But I removed all of it, replaced it with Crytox 205 Grade 0, lubed the spacebar stabilizers as well, and now you can hear the glorious difference. Keep in mind this is the initial lubing sound test, so it's going to sound even better once you break the switches in over a period of time. With this keyboard, there's no software, so in terms of customizability, it's very limited. You only have control over your function keys, volume, and RGB controls. So if you're looking for a keyboard with a lot of shortcuts and remapping like the GK64, this is not the keyboard for you. But if you're someone who only needs arrow keys, a delete button, and a backspace button, then you're good to go with this keyboard. So you can increase and decrease brightness and volume with just one hand. And as for the RGB controls, it can get pretty crazy. First, you can control the switch LEDs and the bottom LEDs separately with the corresponding control keys. This keyboard has a total of 4 effects for the bottom LEDs and a whopping 19 total effects for the switch LEDs. And with each effect, you can change the color in a very weird way. By pressing function spacebar, you can get to an RGB mode, and if you click on any of the keys, they will correspond to a color in a spectrum that goes from orange to pink. The higher you press, the brighter and lighter the switches are, and you can do the opposite to get a darker color. And if you want a white color, it's done through the bottom row, with the left being the darkest and the right being the brightest. This is the first time I've ever seen a keyboard have this kind of programming to control the RGB. Usually you only have one key to control the lighting and the speed and the effects, but with this keyboard you're incorporating the entire keyboard to do that controlling. And I definitely prefer the row from tab to / because the colors are the brightest and they're the most vivid. And thanks to the south-facing switches, the keyboard does look a lot brighter because the LED source is now in front of you instead of behind a keycap, which is a definite plus if you love that RGB lighting. But if your favorite color is red, then this is sadly not the keyboard for you. For some reason, the manufacturers decided for their solid color spectrum, they only wanted to go from orange to pink. But if you use the wave effect, you do get a smudge of red in between the orange and the pink, just to complete the entire rainbow spectrum. Lastly, the price of this keyboard is not too bad. For $65, you're getting a full RGB keyboard with a 65% form factor, with hot swappable switches without compromising on any of the basic functions such as arrow keys and the delete key. And of course, the main selling point of this keyboard is definitely the acrylic case and the RGB distribution it gives, and the hot swappability definitely gives it some redeeming points. But in terms of customizability, 0 to none, so that might be a turnoff for you. I know there's a bunch of 60% keyboards on the market that also have an acrylic case for around the same price, and I'm pretty sure some of them have a software to go with it as well. Not sure if they have remapping and shortcuts, but if they do and you require that customizability, then it's probably best to go for those keyboards over the K66. But if you're satisfied with the K66 and what keys it gives you, then this might be a great keyboard for you. Keep in mind, between those two keyboards, the Gamakay K66 does have an acrylic plate, making the RGB feel even more immersive. It literally feels like you're typing on a Bifrost bridge. It's that awesome in the dark. So what do you guys think about the K66? To be honest, it's a very basic keyboard in terms of its features and functions, but the design is so nice. You put it on your desk and the RGB just starts flowing, making your setup so much more vivid. And the hot swappable feature definitely gives you flexibility in the odd chance you start really getting into mechanical keyboards and switches like the Holy Pandas and the Telios. But that's been it. Support the channel by using the links down below to buy it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.